right. Well, welcome everybody. It's continuing our different type of meeting. I thought that we would go around and do introductions and do it a little different. We can say, who you are, what agency you represent or used to represent or what you're part of. And then let's throw in a question of a dream vacation. Is it you either like to be doing now or something you look forward to or doing? I can start that. I'm Tom McIntyre. I've been retired about 12 years from Catholic Community Services, where I was the director for about 25 years of the counties east of King County. And then I was also, before that, I was a teacher in Montana for a number of years. So I've got some interesting backgrounds. Now I just represent retired people. And the dream vacation for me right now is I have a daughter, a son-in-law, and a grandson in Germany. And they have, if you're an educator, they have the dream jobs. They teach on military bases. They get housing in a village covered. They get incredible benefits. They'd be better off educationally with the Department of Education, but all the money is in the Department of Defense, and they work for the Department of Defense. So, but they're kind of stuck over there now with COVID, and my daughter's pregnant, and we were there for the birth of the first child, and the second child is coming in April, and I'd give anything to be able to be there with them in April. But things are going to have to progress very fast for that to happen. So well, we may have to postpone that dream. But anyway, that would be the vacation that I would have and look forward to. So I can't see everybody, Joe. So if you would just get a hold of people and we'll let them take their turn.
Rachel Adams, you're next on my Brady Bunch screen. Who are you? Who do you represent? And where do you want to go?
Awesome. I'm Rachel Adams. I am a project management with the City of Monroe, working to implement the homeless policy advisory recommendations. And I am staff support for the Community Human Services Advisory Board. And I have been lucky to get to go to one of my dream spots has been Greece. And so that's a trip I've already taken, but my next adventure, where to next, I really want to go visit Croatia because that's where my grandmother is from. So.
Well, thank you, Rachel. Stephanie, you're next. Stephanie Phillips.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I am the new student assistance professional at Monroe High School. And I feel like Bali would be my dream vacation.
Thank you, Stephanie. Chris Gray, so happy to see you.
Thank you, Joe. I'm Chris Gray. I am the immediate past president of Housing Hope nonprofit, but I'm on the East County board for Housing Hope. My dream vacation, I usually go to Colorado to be with my family for Christmas. I am not going this year, but my nephews, one's a freshman in high school and one's in 8th grade, they want me to come for their birthday. They have the same birthday, which is April 12th. And so we're hoping that I'll be able to do that. But my long range dream is we had to cancel a trip with 3 educator friends that I have as a river cruise in Germany and France. So anyway, we're hoping someday to be able to plug that back into our lives.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Jury, I'm always happy when you can join us, and that is just such a Thor-like beard. I love it.
It's a great beard.
It's getting a little out of control. I might need to do something about this at some point. Let's see. So Chris Jury, formerly your SAP at Monroe High School, now doing the prevention coordination for the Northwest ESD, which allows me to still join you guys as frequently as I can make excuses to do it. And I guess my dream vacation right before this whole nightmare started, I was all set to go to England and Ireland with my band, and we had done this a number of times, but it was going to be kind of a big outing, play a whole bunch of shows and stuff, and we had to cancel the whole thing. And I am just so hopeful that maybe 2022, maybe 2023, we'll be able to make that happen. So that's my dream.
Thank you. Amber, who are you? Where do you want to go?
I am Amber Mehta. I work for the Monroe School District on the behavioral health team with many people on here. I do other stuff too. If you know me and my family very well, which you might because I talk a lot and tell people lots of things, you know my family loves camping. So really our goal, our bucket list is to show our kids all 50 states. We don't care. We're gonna camp in Nevada and wherever else that's people don't normally go. So that's our goals and dreams for our children.
Mr. Bloss, welcome back.
Thank you. Jim Bloss, representing the National Alliance on Mental Illness, I guess. And I say I guess because I'm working so much with the city here, I think I'm working for Rachel. Busy with doing NAMI stuff. I mean, there's plenty going on now, of course, associated with the virus. My dream vacation at the moment would be going anywhere with my wife, just us two without wearing a mask.
Yep, I hear that. Thank you. Carrie, how are you? Carrie Boone.
I'm good. I'm Carrie Boone, and I'm really happy to be here. I've missed a lot of meetings as I've just been student teaching up until this last Friday. So vacation-wise, wow. I would just be happy to do anything to go to Kennewick or anything at this point because I've been doing my master's this past year and have done mostly sitting at a chair studying at my computer. So I'm so happy to take a break. I'm looking forward. This is my last week of class, so I'm almost done.
I'm so proud and excited for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mary Myers, how are you doing?
Good. I'm enjoying seeing everyone. My name is Mary Myers. I was a 30-year employee with Monroe School District. I was a career pediatric RN and found my way into the schools and never left until I retired 4 years ago. A dream vacation, my husband and I had planned to be on a river cruise. Chris, we may have seen you there. We were going through Germany and then into France and had planned to celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary there. But that trip got canceled. And right now, honestly, my dream vacation would be a big camping trip with our 4 kids and 9 grandchildren and spouses-in-laws and just to be together. We were talking with our oldest son last night who lives in BC, and we've not been able to see them for almost a year now. I have 3 granddaughters there, and we'll miss being together at Christmas, like all of you who won't be with family. And boy, camping, no matter where, even if it's in our backyard with everyone getting together by a campfire, sounds heavenly right now.
Thank you, Mary. Raylan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Hey everyone, Raylan Lucy with the Monroe School District now, previously with Take the Next Step. And I think it's been probably since I was with Next Step that I've been in a meeting. And so glad to just be listening in. Hopefully I can join you in most of the meeting. And where would I go? I love to travel, so anywhere. Someone said anywhere. I think I would go to visit family in Hawaii, or I may also go to visit friends in Nashville. Those would be two places that, when I can, that's where I want to go.
Chief Jolly, you're so reliable. I'm so happy you're here. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thanks. I appreciate it, Joseph. You know, where would I go? Jeez, I think that's a tough one. But I know I can give Jim some advice. If he wants to go someplace and not have to wear a mask, the state of Idaho is wide open to that kind of thought right this very minute. I just returned from there on a short trip and walked into a place, and the whole place stopped paying attention and doing things and making noise, and gave my wife and I a dirty look, and we had to take our mask off. Or else I think we would add some justice right there. But it's a different world. As for where I would go, you know what? I think I would just put a map on the board, throw a dart, and be happy. Just to have some human interaction and to see a different place and not have a work schedule. So that's about where I'd be, Joe.
Sounds good. Sounds so good. Oh, I had some rearranging happen here. Okay, so if I call on you a second time, it's just because you got rearranged. Amber, I already called on you, right? Yep, so then it's Pastor Michael. Hi, Pastor Michael.
There we go. Yes, hello. I'm pastor chaplain with Monroe Police and Fire for going on 24 years and coordinator for Monroe pastors, other things in the community. I see a lot of you a lot of times, and it's always good to see you. Thanks for all you're doing. And where I would go, well, I am going to go. My wife and I are going to be with our kids and grandkids at Christmas at one of our son's houses. We're calling it the Little House on the Prairie Christmas because it'll be outside and it'll be around a fire. And then he has heaters all over, and we're going to be sequestered slightly into Matt's family, Kevin's family, and Yvonne and I, so we can be there safely and everything. So that's going to be great. I'd really like to go back to Kenya, of course, at Christmas. That's my family over there. And so, yep, it's good to be with y'all.
Thank you. Kathy Jackson, long time no see.
Good to see you too, Joe. I'm Kathy Jackson. I'm the family engagement liaison for the school district, and I work with most of our elementaries and our 2 middle schools. And I would love to go to Cabo. Long story short, the 3rd time, I mean, wasn't the charm. We're going for the 4th time. We planned to go years ago, and it was, I had an expired passport. We were packed, ready to go, and looked at the passport the night before. Grandma was there to take care of the kids, everything. Anyway, we had to retarget to Hawaii. The second one, there was a typhoon, and the 3rd one was a pandemic. But we're going to get there. So here's hoping, right? 2021.
I always knew perseverance was one of your traits, but boy.
Right.
Mr. Mahosky, how are you, sir?
Doing fine, Joe, and thanks. I'm Bill Mahosky, the volunteer, and I'm on the board for Take the Next Step. I'm also the program coordinator for Monroe Youth Mentoring. Dream vacations. We have booked 3 different dream vacations earlier this year, not realizing how long the COVID-19 was going to continue, tragically. The first 2 vacations we've canceled. One was to Italy and the other was to return to Scotland. The 3rd vacation we have kept booked. We're due to go in April. I've got my fingers crossed, and we booked it to Tahiti. We'll see how that goes. And hopefully for everybody's sake, the virus has minimized and we're able to get down to the South Pacific.
Excellent. Hannah, would you introduce yourself? We're so glad you could join us today.
Yeah, thanks. It's my first time being here. I am the manager of the Sky Valley Youth Coalition over here at the Sultan Volunteers of America. Yeah, and my dream vacation would be anywhere in Ireland, Thailand, or New Zealand.
Nice. We're so glad you could join us. Welcome.
Thank you. I am too.
And I may pick on you to give us a report about what your kids are up to.
Okay.
But everybody's on notice for that. I'm indiscriminate. Kathy Bernhardt, how the heck are you?
Long time no see, Joe.
I know.
I'm doing great. I'm Kathy Bernhardt. I'm the McKinney Bento and Foster Care Liaison for Monroe. And where would I go? Anywhere that wasn't my house with a yeah, no, we, similar to Bill, we had 2 vacations scheduled Disney World because we thought pandemic was going to get over and we had rescheduled it, and we have it for the 3rd time now come the end of June. Fingers crossed, please, because I've got a very patient little girl waiting. Other than that, yeah, I'm just excited to see the end of this thing and happy to see all of you.
Excellent. Let's see, some more shifting just happened. Dwayne, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Joe. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm Dwayne Carpenter. I'm the College and Career Navigator for Edmonds College at the Youth Center at Everett Station. And I guess I've always wanted to hike the Pacific Crest Trail, but I'll settle for seeing if I can get from Galena to Monte Cristo and over the mountain there. But that's shooting for the stars. Huh? But that's my vacation anyway.
I'm so happy to see you. I'm glad you turned on your camera.
Yeah, I seem to have better or more stable internet connection with when I shut it off.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's only so much handsomeness Zoom can take. So
more like Shrek. I don't want to go there.
well, thanks for joining us. Dennis Smith, you're back. I'm so glad you're here too.
Hi, Joe. Good to see you again. My name is Dennis Smith, and I'm a retired school psychologist and counselor, last serving in Granite Falls, where I'm on the Granite Falls Community Coalition Board. My dream vacation, 50 years ago, I was serving in the Navy in Hawaii, and I used to operate a small vessel through there. And then it was another 40 years before I was able to go back. So my wife and I went about 4 years ago, and I would like to go back and check things out there again.
So glad you could join us.
Thank you.
And then last but not least today is Lorena Lee, part of our student support advocate team.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lorena Lee, and I'm the student support advocate for Frank Wagner Elementary. My dream vacation, it's funny, I was thinking about this all along, and I have a 10-year-old. So I feel like there's like have a child dream vacation, and then there's like when I don't have a child dream vacation. So right now I'm here. So this is what I'm going to refer to. Right now, my dream and is what we had booked, but I'd love to follow through with it, was a cruise to Alaska with my family. I'm unabashedly a huge Disney fan. I'm proud of it, and it was going to be a Disney cruise, and we were going to travel with Anna and Elsa to Alaska. So my dream would just be to complete that for my child so she can enjoy that and we can enjoy that with her.
Excellent. Man, I so resonate with child vacation and dream vacation. My dream vacation will take me through France and Italy. I'll get there. But my dream child vacation in the current context, I just love to go back to the Snohomish Aquatic Center and go swimming with them. I mean, man, I miss people so much. In fact, on here, Kathy Bernhardt is the only person I see regularly in person because she sits by me. So That's why this is genuine excitement to see everybody. So I'm going to share my screen here.
I'm gonna add one thing. I would like to go with most of you, but I'm going to pass on the Kennewick trip.
There we go.
And
That was a bad example.
My kids have been in Germany for 5 years, and they have been everywhere. And Croatia, one of their absolute favorite places. So yeah, that's a great goal to get over.
Awesome. Specifically the Dalmatian Islands.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to move us through our agenda just so you can see what's on the plate today. The focus is getting, oops, I have my times wrong. The focus is on getting us to connection and conversation, but there's some information I wanted to share with you that's that's relevant to where each of us are at. And sharing this because we are a coalition, and the coalition at its most base is an acknowledgement that there are some issues we need to take on that are too big for any one person or one agency on their own. And so my plan today is to share with you exactly where we are at in the COVID pandemic, to show what we may be up against for the foreseeable future, to take a moment and consider a couple of different aspects of hope and the science of hope, and then to open it up to what you're seeing, what you're doing, what you need. So normally in December, we preview the movie we plan to screen at the Galaxy Theater in the spring. This year, there's no preview just because I don't know how we can do this over Zoom. But since we're all together, I really wanted to make good use of your valuable time. And we did go through our dream vacation. I love that question because it's so revealing. And if nothing else, we need to connect. I need to connect, and it's all about me. But so where we're at right now in this global pandemic and in Washington state is in the disillusionment phase. And so researchers have found that COVID is progressing like within the community, like any natural disaster would, with regard to psychological and emotional impacts. There are really 6 phases of community impact during natural disaster, and that starts with pre-disaster. So we know something's coming. We start to see elevated fear and uncertainty in the community. Then impact stage, it happens, right? Can you see my cursor, Rachel? I can see you. And if anybody wants to interrupt or add, just speak. I can only see the speaker so that I can also see my own screen, but please, this is a conversation. But so, right, like March, things start shutting down. We're having intense emotional reactions, and then the community pulls together, right? So we get into this heroic phase that's punctuated by high levels of activity, but low productivity, but increased community and altruism. So we come together, and that transitions very quickly into this honeymoon phase, this peak community cohesion period where we're pretty optimistic that we're going to get back to normal, where government and nonprofit resources are abundant in the community, and we're starting to mitigate those impacts. And then it's downhill from there. And so downhill to the degree where we are currently in what researchers consider the disillusionment phase. And this is a period that's characterized by widespread cognitive and emotional disruption, mental and physical exhaustion, substance abuse, and suicidality increases, feelings of distrust and abandonment, and a significantly increased demand on resources, typically at a time when those resources start to become depleted. And so that is the case for our community right now, as CARES Act funding is all but expired. We await further stimulus and support, but I want to really focus on what it means to be in this disillusionment phase. And then you can see, if you're following the yellow line, that we're a couple of months, about 3 months from the peak valley, the lowest point of disillusionment phase, when all of these symptoms are most acutely felt, and then we're back on the road to recovery, typically 12 to 18 months after a disaster event occurs. What you see on this dotted line is the new projections coming from the Department of Health. The Department of Health is not projecting that we're going to follow a typical disaster phase, because we're experiencing what they consider to be subsequent disaster cascade effects, or additional impacts that magnify what we're feeling in this disaster event. And so specifically for us, that is the current election season and the tension that's come with that, ongoing social and civil unrest, the shifting in seasons as we lose our outdoor coping strategies that we developed in COVID and are moving more indoor. And then, of course, these tertiary infection impacts. I mean, it's skyrocketing. And so actually, researchers are predicting that we may not hit our lowest phase of disillusionment until March, and we may rebound, but we may be in this secondary disillusionment phase for up to 6 or 9 months longer. And I really want to show you what that means before we move into reconstruction and this feeling that we actually are recovering and we embrace our new responsibilities and norms. First, there's ample data about hospital visits and impacts that we have access to. I'm really going to show you one data point, and that's for general psychological distress. What you're seeing in the blue is how our community is faring, and researchers are surprised to learn that Washingtonians are actually faring slightly better than expected. In fact, we're doing better this year with hospitalizations or emergency room visits for psychological distress than we were doing at this time in November 2019. So there's some strategies that are working and people are adapting. The opposite's true for youth under 18 though. So while the general community is doing okay, all things considered, we know that youth under 18 are adversely impacted right now, that they're doing worse right now than by a significant margin than they were last year at this time. And so when I say kids are feeling psychological distress more, what that looks like in general terms is increases in depression and anxiety, exhaustion and disrupted sleep, diminished cognitive ability, and more difficulty engaging in higher level thinking like planning, impacted memory. They may be feeling burnout in whatever spheres they are, but a lot of these symptoms apply to us too. Emotional fatigue and intense emotional reacting. Symptoms of PTSD right now in the community are lower than what researchers projected, mainly coming up as disrupted sleep and nightmares. And then we expect to see increased aggression and violence as well. And these impacts manifest across really 4 domains when we're talking specifically about children and teens. So physically, kids are going to start reporting more headaches, more stomach aches, difficulty sleeping, and changes in appetite. We're going to see increases in substance abuse rates and risk-taking behavior. We're already seeing kids acting like there's nothing good in their future or acting more immature or younger than their age. We're expecting and seeing increased outbursts and tantrums, and especially when we return to in-person learning or more in-person situations, increased clinginess just for safety. In terms of emotional and cognitive impacts, we're seeing kids become more and more worried for the safety of others. General crankiness or irritability is prevalent. A lot of young people are worried that we're never going to get out of this. This is happening for so long, or that it's going to happen again. We're seeing increases in agitation and hyperactivity, and again, pervasive just anger, sadness, and fear. And then with regard to changes in thinking, trouble concentrating, difficulty learning new things, especially for our youngers or those who are more trauma impacted, the false belief that they're responsible for what's happening in their family or in their community. If a loved one got sick, they may blame themselves. If a loved one passes away, that may be their fault. This is just a natural response, both for youth and for exposure to trauma. And then we're transitioning into this period where young people are feeling or losing the ability to trust that the adults around them can also protect them. And then there are also some specific COVID impacts on learning. And you'll hear some of these reported from the earlier symptoms, but specifically learning's impacted because students are having a harder time paying attention, right? They're living in their stress response system, in the limbic system, not in the prefrontal cortex where executive function, reasoning, judgment, planning happen. And we see every day they're having a harder and harder time focusing on schoolwork. They're having difficulty remembering what they're learning and remembering to complete tasks. They are showing up with too much energy and acting very silly, or conversely, just feeling really tired all of the time. We are hearing from parents about sleep and appetite disturbances, reports of headaches and stomach aches, again, crankiness, but more outbursts, lots of crying, impulsiveness, and having a hard time thinking before they speak or take action. I want to also focus on adult impacts, and a lot of what you read about student impacts are true for us too. But my goal here in sharing this with you is, one, to make you aware, and two, to norm what you may be experiencing yourself. I mean, the one prevalent theme I heard when we're just talking about our dream vacation is this strong desire for connection and connection to loved ones. And so even that, you're not alone. We're all feeling that. It's okay to feel this way. So we know that adults are feeling depression widespread, right? So the primary output of the pandemic is significant increases in depression. Secondary to that is reports of anxiety and acute stress. In my behavioral health team meeting today, there was a really important distinction made that DOH hasn't brought up, just my team member did, and that is the difference between how we're absorbing stress and how we're processing feeling overwhelmed. And it's an important distinction. My team feels overwhelmed by the sheer volume of need and work that needs to be done, but their stress level is manageable. And so maybe you're there too. This period for adults is also typified by exhaustion, just a general fatigue, feeling overwhelmed, having disrupted sleep patterns. But we also know that disrupted sleep can single-handedly lead to burnout. So burnout, just so that we have a common understanding, is the exhaustion of body and mind that's caused by an unequal balance between the demands of our job and life and the coping resources that are available to us. And we know that this can lead to compassion fatigue or secondary vicarious trauma exposure. That is that we experience such a profound emotional and physical erosion that we have decreased empathy for others. And that is certainly rampant, even among the caring professionals I'm privileged to work with. And I think what's impacting me and many of my team members most deeply is this developing sense of moral injury, these feelings of guilt or shame and anger about not being able to give the kind of care or service that we normally would. And I don't think that's limited to professional moral injury, but personal moral injury too. How are we there for our moms and dads, for our kids, for our brothers and sisters? And so if you're there, that's okay. The consequence of these experiences, though, are showing up in the data. Rates of substance abuse and suicidality are increasing, particularly in the youth population with regard to self-harm and suicidal ideation. So self-harm and suicidal ideation have increased by 5% compared to November last year, with mental health related emergency room visits increasing by 31%. So pretty significant increase in mental health emergency right now. Alcohol and marijuana sales have increased by 34% compared to this time last year. And women are significantly more likely than men to report increased substance abuse right now. Researchers think that may be because not only are they dealing with the same stressors at work that everybody else is dealing with, but that primary responsibility for leading the house is still on their shoulders. And that double whammy of home and work overwhelm is leading to those increases in substance use. We also know that in every pandemic or in every disaster, including this pandemic, child abuse and domestic violence is up. I wanted to remind this group that the most common child abuse injury during periods of disaster is traumatic brain injury. So it's not just that child abuse goes up, but the severity of it goes up as a result of the social isolation. And then just to keep this in your back pocket too, for every 1% increase we see in the unemployment rate, Washington sees a 1.6% increase in the suicide rate and one additional overdose death per 300,000 people. And I just heard the unemployment rate for Washington, or unemployment filings for Washington today were unexpectedly high. 800,000 people filed for unemployment, is about 200,000 more than what was expected. So this is our reality right now. Now, the reason why I share this is because we can respond, and Department of Health is recommending developing resilience with 4 key ingredients that will help the community, our family members, and each other to get through the pandemic. That is specifically cultivating hope, connection, purpose or meaning in the work that we're doing or how we serve others, and then promoting adaptability and flexibility, which is a learned skill in addition to just a trait we can be born with. And so I thought for at least today, and since we're going to be in this for the next 6 months, to spur conversation, I wanted to deconstruct what this means, starting with hope, because hope isn't just optimism. There's a science behind hope that the coalition may be able to help bring to the community. I'm going to show you a video. It's a little old, but it's still really good. And then note too, before we go there, that most of the science around hope was developed by the medical industry, specifically because they began to notice, and Mary, you could probably elaborate on this, but that hope influenced outcomes, positive outcomes in people with terminal or near terminal illness. And so developing both agency and pathways as a path toward hope significantly improved outcome among that population. So in the video, when you hear agency, and they'll explain it, what they're talking about really is the energy and motivation to identify attainable goals. And pathways are our capacity for planning multiple routes to meet those goals, right? So if we can't accomplish this goal based on plan A, we have a plan B. Plan B fails, we have a plan C. And so those 2 elements, agency and pathways, are the scientific predictors of hope. So I want to show you this. It's about 9 minutes long, and then this will open up discussion, and I'm really interested in your gut reaction. So I'm about to stop talking, and let's check this out. Rachel, you're on my screen. Can you hear this? Thumbs up? Okay.
Hi, I'm Shane Lopez. I'm a Gallup senior scientist, and I'm a business professor at the University of Kansas. I study hope for a living. So I try to figure out how hopeful people live their daily lives and become more happy and productive. Hope is the belief that the future will be better than the present, coupled with the belief that you have the power to make it so. You need those two beliefs kind of joined together to be hopeful. A belief that the future will be better than the present is optimism, which is a healthy attribute, but you have to combine that with a sense of agency and a sense of an ability to come up with pathways, thoughts to actually have hope. So you need optimism plus agency plus a whole bunch of plans. Hope is good for us for a whole lot of reasons. Number one, it's hard to be happy without being hopeful. So hope is kind of the domino that knocks over the happiness domino in life. Also, we are much more productive when we're hopeful. So a hopeful student can actually achieve a letter grade higher than a less hopeful student of equal intellect. And a hopeful worker is more productive than a less hopeful worker. So you get done as a hopeful worker as much by 4 o'clock as it takes your colleague who's less hopeful to get done by 5 o'clock. So you're actually 14% more productive at work and you're 12% more productive at school. So hope for the future really pays off today. Hopeful people pursue 2 or 3 goals that matter to them most, 2 or 3 goals that will give them meaning or purpose. They know, as hopeful people, that you can't juggle 10, 12, 20 different goals. And I think that's a major mistake a lot of people make when they're trying to make change in their lives and become healthier, is they try to do it on the back of an already chaotic life. And they try to figure out how they can be more hopeful and pursue more goals when they're already tapped out. So one thing you have to figure out is how to edit down your life to 2 or 3 health goals that really matter to you most. And then you have to be clear, specific, and additive in those goals. So you have to set them in a way that they really kind of jump off the page, or there's really kind of a picture of what you're pursuing. They have to be real specific. So when will you start dieting? What will you eat? How will you change your habits? So you have to get really specific about that. And then it has to be additive. So you can't just be taking away stuff from your life all the time. You have to figure out how you can add things into your life as well. Hoping is very productive. It's very beneficial to you, but it has a weak cousin called wishing. And hoping and wishing overlap in that people who are hopeful think the future will be better than the present. People who are wishful really believe the future will be better than the present. But it's that next layer of belief that distinguishes hopers from wishers. A hopeful person believes that hope is hard work, that making the future better, that achieving these goals that matter to you most is really hard work. Therefore, you have to come up with lots of plans and lots of willpower to sustain yourself in pursuit of the goals that matter to you most. Wishful people believe that the wish will manifest into reality, and they can take this approach in a very passive way. They can set the goals, and if they just think about it hard enough and maybe write themselves a note every now and then, they can actually achieve the goal that matters to them. Well, that just doesn't work. So that passive approach is actually counterproductive. You will not achieve the goal you've set, but you also will undermine the willpower you have for other goals in your life. So wishing is quite destructive, and hoping is quite productive. When hopeful people hit obstacles, they kind of bounce back, and they almost have this twinkle in their eye. It's like, oh, I knew this was coming, or I anticipated that this was not going to be easy. And then they immediately come up with new and different plans to get around that obstacle. So an obstacle to a hopeful person is an expected challenge, something that they are prepared for. So hopeful people are realists. They realize that between point A where they are and point B where they want to be, there will be a lot of obstacles. And they come up with multiple plans to overcome those obstacles. They're also not shy about reaching out for support and help. So if they run into an obstacle that they can't overcome, they realize, oh, maybe so-and-so can help me with this, and they reach out for help and support. And then finally, sometimes if we hit enough obstacles as we're pursuing a goal, some of the most hopeful among us say, well, okay, wait, am I really meant to go for that goal? Is that where my meaning truly lies? Or am I seeing all these obstacles because my talent and my excitement and my interest don't really lie in that big goal? So hopeful people are reassessing sometimes and trying to figure out, can I recoup my energy and pursue other goals that might mean as much? So re-goaling is a critical strategy of a very hopeful person. And sometimes that's how we truly achieve resilience, is we change the outcome we're searching for just a little bit. And then we figure out that there's a better, more doable path to that outcome. And then we kind of live to fight another day. Once we reach that point where we're very near death, either due to an ongoing terminal illness or a very brief illness in some cases that take loved ones quickly, that understanding of death, that story you've told about your life needs to be edited. In a very rudimentary way, we start telling a different story about our lives. We start telling a story about our ending. And the most hopeful people at the end of their lives are trying to accomplish a few more things, mainly related to their family and friends. So they start trying to figure out how they can say goodbyes. They start trying to figure out how they can end on a peaceful note. They start trying to figure out how they can have a little bit of freedom at the end of life. And that's where you see these endings that have some meaning and some significance to them of people's lives. There are some people who, once they realize that they've lost hope for the future because of an illness, they have a break. They have a break with who they were, the story they were told, and they become focused on ending their lives as quickly as possible because they can't handle the fear that comes along with that reality. And I think that's when the most hopeful people, the caretakers around them, can help them come to terms with how this story might end differently. To become a more hopeful person, you have to figure out what you're truly excited about. And oftentimes those are the things that give you the most meaning and purpose in life. For many people, they're excited about one day having a good job or even a better job than they have right now. So if you're in school, you're thinking about the future, and it's like, one day I want a good job. If you're in the workplace or thinking about going back to the workplace, you're thinking about, oh, I want a better job than I used to have. But also people are really motivated by having strong relationships and really close friends and a happy family. So you do have to identify the things that you're most excited about and invest heavily in them. So we spend a lot of our days doing things that we're not at all excited about. We spend a lot of our time doing things that we're not at all good at. So when you can find something you're excited about and you're good at and invest heavily in that, you'll start having kind of this flurry of hopeful thoughts. Wow, I'm really good at that. Photography, I'm going to take a class. Oh, I need to travel more because now I'm good at photography and I need to take more pictures. Oh, I want to share my pictures with other people. Let me try to do this. So you really kind of act differently around that goal pursuit. And then once you kind of capture that enthusiasm and excitement for one thing in your life, you then can generalize it to other things. And then you can find ways to kind of teach yourself how to be hopeful in other pursuits that are manageable and doable. But one of the key ways to learn how to be hopeful, and it's a real shortcut, but it's an important one, is to find the most hopeful person in your life and spend time with him or her. Because they'll teach you that, hey, you can only chase so many meaningful goals at a time. They'll teach you that you have to come up with multiple plans to get to those goals, or you're going to get stuck. And they'll teach you that you have to sustain your energy over time, or you'll run out of gas and you won't get things accomplished. So the two shortcuts really are finding out what you're most excited about in life and doing more of that, and surrounding yourself with hopeful people who can teach you the steps of hope.
Okay, so I'm going to read these questions and put them in the chat box, but I'm curious about your response. What challenges you may be facing right now in your spheres of influence. If you're actively trying to foster hope and optimism in your role, whatever that is, I'd love to learn about how you're doing that. If you had wouldn't it be cool if we could do this thought? Please share that too. Really, I'm showing this and asking you as a coalition, do we have a role in cultivating hope in the community, knowing what's coming may be worse than where we're at right now? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everybody's faces. But Tom, tell me your thoughts first. I'd love to hear from our fearless leader.
Well, a word that jumped out at me that he didn't say was acceptance. And I came a few years ago to acceptance was always something joyful. And I changed my definition of acceptance to changing a flat tire in a rainstorm. This is the way it is, and I got to figure a way to deal with it. So that's to me a starting point. And the other one that I followed up from that acceptance was shortly after I retired, I was in the locker room at the Y and I said, hey, I'm retired now. And someone who was 35 years old, maybe 40 at the most, said, I wish I was retired. And I said to him, why would you want to wish your life away? why would you wish your life away? You know, it's the old from Proverbs, a time for everything under the sun. And my time is retirement, but it's not your time necessarily. Some of you it is. So acceptance is I'm not retired. And if I can't let go of my work life, I can't enjoy being retired. And I've been lucky. I've been blessed that I've enjoyed every phase of my life. And part of that is, you know, yes, an optimism, but and part of it is I don't set my goals too high. So I remember a thing, this is way off the thought. I remember a thing in a Woody Allen movie, and this couple is standing in line, and he says, and Woody Allen's mind is always all over the place, and he said, "You seem like such a happy couple. What is your secret?" And they said, "Well, we're very shallow people." I just love that, you know, we don't set our sights too high. We, you know, we don't have to solve the world's problems, whatever. But getting back to this, I like his thoughts on hope and that it's work, but being who you are, where you are, and going from there. And I was going to, the thing I thought is that if you, and I may have used this before, if you lined up all the people in the world by resources, if you're looking one direction, you feel so overwhelmed and you feel that, oh my God, I have nothing and everybody has everything. But if you turn around 180 degrees, you're at the front of the line, and that line goes forever. And you come out of that feeling, oh my God, I am so blessed. Nothing has changed but your perception. You're not any more blessed than you were, but your perception. And so that's always been a thing for me. How can I get to this is the way it is, and then move from there. So
Something that stood out to me, and I guess kind of goes along with what Tom said about acceptance, that and I'm working on a training for expectations, so it's on my brain anyway, but I think expectations is a big thing, and it's just very related to what you said, Tom. But I hear I think that's one of the challenges with this pandemic, that we kind of keep eking along thinking maybe we're going to be back in school, or maybe we're going to be able to do these things, and we don't know. If someone said by September 2021 everything's going to be back to normal and you'll be able to go back to school, I feel like we'd be able to plan for that and just mentally wrap our heads around that better. And I know every once in a while for students, I'll get these little messages in the chat that say, "Mrs. Boone, when are we going back to school? When do you think we'll go back?" And they're just so sad. Because the kids really don't have a sense of what the future holds. And I think just that unsurety, or the inability to know what to expect, you know, are we going to go back this semester? And I think as adults and as teachers, or there's a lot of confusion too. And I think as that trickles down to kids, they're even more just left in a place of just not really knowing, you know, what will my graduation look like, and do I get to play sports in the spring, or am I ever going to see kids again? And so just the combination of the isolation and just the unsurety is not knowing what to expect, I think is a challenge. I love that video. And so how that ties in, and giving kids hope by just maybe having a way to have more clear expectations, or, you know, I don't know, to communicate better to them, give them a framework of what to expect.
Viktor Frankl said that if you have a why, you'll find a how.
Mm-hmm.
And And he said that people in the concentration camps that said, I'm going to be out of here on September 1st, often died on September 2nd if they were still in the concentration camp. I mean, it was that powerful. And so how to help them identify their whys and then work them into the hows. But I think we can start too much on the hows and not to be clear on the why.
Other thoughts?
I wanted to jump in real quick before I have to jump off into another meeting, but I love the video. I'm a person of deep faith and conviction. So for me, I think that really helps me in my personal hope. But explaining that to someone who doesn't have it, that video for me was like, oh, that's why I do some of the things that I do. That's why when I hit a roadblock or a challenge, you know, it's almost like that moment of excitement where I kind of bounce back and go, oh, okay, how are we going to adjust course now? And I was just thinking back to something you said, Joe, about do we have a business, you know, doing this in the community right now, considering what's coming? And I say, yes, you know, there's always that that place for helping people set goals and challenging themselves and then encouraging them to reach those goals. I think that that's, you know, it's like that will teach them to have hope. Maybe. I hope. Yeah. I hope.
And I think also if we project hope or give hopeful thoughts or be hopeful, it rubs off. So the more that we can project positive things and encouraging others, they can learn from that and also go forward and look around themselves to see how blessed, turn around like Tom said and see, you know, the glass is half full or empty, but you know, we all have circumstances, but to look at the positive in each of them. And even how horrible and hard this has been, the positive things are our family, you know, they're together more often. I mean, they're, you know, dinner's around the dinner table now. It's not on the way to the sports event. So there are good things, but just to look for that.
Yep.
When we went through our places we go on vacation, most of us shared something we were going to do and couldn't. And part of moving to looking forward is letting go of what wasn't. You know, it's a change is a two-part process, and the first part is letting go of something, and then I can take hold of something else. But if I can't let go, I can't move on. You know, and so that's it was interesting how I was going to do this, but now I'm looking forward to this. Well, at some time that was you let go of that's not going to happen, and that's the way it is. That's acceptance. It doesn't have to be okay even.
One of the things I had to jump off, so I only got to watch the beginning, and I was so intrigued by it that I hope maybe Joe, you can share it with me so I can finish it. It kind of left me on a cliffhanger. But one of the things that I was thinking about is like the differentiating between hope and wishfulness. Is a skill set that has to be taught and shared and shown. And I know this because in my own house, my husband has many, many layers of trauma through being a police officer and his childhood. I'm sure his ACEs score is incredibly high. And he very much struggles with the idea of hope because he's always waiting for the shoe to drop, which is a trauma response. And so he's always thinking the shoe's going to fall this way or that way. So I got to be prepared, because the minute I allow myself hope is the minute I become vulnerable to a hurt. And while we can kind of hold on to the idea of hope and conceptualize how powerful it is and how we can see it within ourselves, for many with trauma, I don't know that that's always there. I know with my husband, I don't think I've ever known him to be hopeful. It's something that I'm constantly pointing out, and we're working on it. And he's been through intensive counseling, but it's still something he struggles with daily. And his acceptance looks different his process looks different. And so the one thing I kept thinking was like, how do we teach this? Because this is a skill set that isn't available to everybody.
I picked up on I guess the part about putting yourself in a position to be amongst people who have hope. I mean, you wouldn't want to be around a room full of people like me, I'm a cup half empty person, so that would be very depressing, I would think. But if you have at least a few people in a group who are positive, then you don't feel alone. Being alone is the tough part, I think. Our NAMI support groups, and this is not an advertising plug. It's just maybe something you can all use. I got something for you here. You see that? Yeah. The middle one in particular is NAMI Washington. If you go on NAMI Washington's website, what we've gone to is a ton of virtual support groups. And it's just like this, like what we're doing right now. You know, you don't have to wait for the virus to be over to actually get together as a group of like people who may be going through difficult times. You can actually, in our case, but I think in a lot of cases, you can connect with a bunch of folks this way and just talk about how you feel and what have you. That's what support groups are about. And the thing about it is that those groups, the way they're set up, it could be up from all over the state, not only all of the state of Washington, but you can come from any other state in the United States. You could have families getting together and maybe talking some mutual problems, even if they're in another state, and then coming into these support group meetings. I mean, it's really awesome. It's about, I think Joe's comment earlier, you know, it's about connection. You connect with others maybe going through a tough time, but you can also be very supportive, reminding them that there is always hope. As long as you're alive, there is hope. I mean, that's the bottom line. It's got nothing to do, you know, you may be going through a tough period and all of that, but you're still vertical. I mean, you know, Tom and I understand that, right? Right, Tom?
Yeah, amen.
So, you know, we get up in the morning. This is a good day. So, but anyway, think of those.
We're not in them.
Yeah, no kidding. Think of those support groups. They're free. Everything in NAMI is free. You can actually get on there, set yourself up. You register for them. They don't want to weed anybody out, but they do want to at least check in with you, or at least have some control so they don't get Zoom bombed, you know, by somebody trying to come into a group and messing it up. So, but anyway, that's for you. That's not just for your personal situation. It's also for you professionals in particular. Maybe you got something you could refer people to. Okay.
I'm going to reach back out to you, Jim.
Yeah.
I was
Being
just gonna
involved
comment,
with
Joe,
taking each step.
Oops. I don't know if you remember when we showed paper tigers, and when I walked out and and you asked me, what did you think of the movie? And I said, it hit close to home. My husband was had a very traumatized growing up period. His name was Ed. And he turned out to be, because he made the decision, I could be a better person than that. And he became a teacher. He was the best teacher. The kids loved him. I lost 7 years ago. And one of the last things he said to me was, number one, Chris, you're going to be okay. And number two, find something that you can be passionate about. And about 2 months later, I was invited to join the board of Housing Hope. the East County Board. And so I think I found my passion. So I think passion also goes along with
Yeah.
hope.
Great word.
Mary Myers, what are your thoughts?
Oh, many racing through
I
my
knew
head.
that.
The people on this call are all caregivers, and we all focus our concerns on our clients. So for all of you who are actively working as professionals, your clients are the community, your students. For people like me, who is retired, my clients are my family members. I have a daughter who's teaching remotely, a daughter-in-law teaching in BC, front and center with students. A 7-year-old grandson who was right on your list, Joe, of manifesting symptoms like he is just goofy, flying off the wall, silly. It's like I don't really know this child anymore. And I see the struggles that all of those individuals I mentioned are going through, but I'm concerned about the caregivers. I'm concerned about all of you on this call. I'm concerned about those that we interact with who are the adults in serving capacities, not only professionally, but in their homes. And I don't know how we truly can give to youth until we're able to recharge ourselves. I was very struck by what went on within the school district when there were struggles and challenges and fears associated with returning students to the classroom. And it really resonated with me in terms of meeting people's basic human needs. And I think we have likely a lot of traumatized adults, because if kids don't know how to anticipate the future and don't have anything to hold on to in the finite, how are adults coping with all that? Adults don't have a clear sense of when normalcy returns or how we even define normalcy. It's likely going to look differently than what we knew normal to be before. So Joe, when you raised the question about do we as a coalition have a role in addressing issues around hope and resilience, that's where my head is stuck right now, is how do we build up our colleagues? What do we need to do to nurture ourselves so that we can best be in those roles as caregivers to others?
I love that.
Mary, I was on a Housing Hope Zoom meeting just before I came to this one, and they talked about 4 staff members who are absolutely terrified of doing their jobs, of meeting and counseling residents in the various facilities, because they are so terrified of the COVID virus, taking it home to their families. So there's four adults, trained professionals, who are really in a terrifying situation for themselves.
And that's at a visceral level.
Exactly.
I have a career in professional nursing. I know the facts, but translating that into my life, whether I can how do we navigate with family members, like Pastor Michael was saying, they're going to celebrate outside. We have a canopy out on our deck that's anchored down with heaters, and that's how we try to meet with family members. But can I hug my grandchildren? I haven't hugged my adult children since last February, March. So I am concerned about our adult professionals in the community. It's a different tier, but I don't know if your cup is half empty, how do you give what you have to those that you serve?
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know how people on this call are facing those issues within their roles in the community. I'm not actively serving in capacities like you are. Have you found that to be a challenge?
Yes, I found it to be a big challenge. That video, Joe, was it's outstanding. It was straightforward. And I just really appreciated listening to that. But providing hope, take the next step in dealing with a lot of families that are going through some very large challenges. It's just a step-by-step, slow step-by-step procedure. And trying to be as optimistic yourself, I think is important for those that aren't and those that have lost hope. It's a very slow going process, mentoring program and dealing with kids. The list that Joe in the beginning of your presentation, my God, the kids suffer from most, if not all of those negative feelings, but it's a slow process. One thing though that creates the anxiety and anguish that so many are suffering from is both this virus. There is more unknown about this virus that is known. It is not black and white. Every day there seems to be something else that needs to be researched. So people that are listening to the media and so on, they hear something positive, get their hopes up a little bit. And because this virus is so changeable and unknown, the next day something else comes up. It's a terrible situation, but as an optimistic person, being surrounded by other people that are optimistic, yes, important. But I realize that getting together with those that are not feeling well at all, feeling anxious about this, the virus and where we're going, when is it going to end? It's just trying to stay optimistic and talking to these people step by step by step.
When I can't quite remember if it was you, Mary, or someone was talking about like how to help the people working kind of in the trenches right now. It reminded me of a symposium that I took about a month ago by well, it was for other people, but the main speaker was Elena Aguilar, and she spoke on emotional resilience in educators, but it was also framed for communities. And it was excellent. It was, I was just looking at the book that she kind of bases a lot of this off is called Onward. Cultivating emotional resilience in educators, but there's a lot of applicable ways to incorporate that into your communities. And how to, and she lists, like, goes into really heavy of like what true self-care looks like, not like surface level self-care, but like true self-care looks like. And it's all tangible, easy to kind of share with people stuff. And so I've ordered the book, and I encourage anybody that is curious about it to get the book. There is a kind of a companion workbook that I would love to join anybody on, an offshoot of a little study club. But I really loved what she had to say. And there's a ton of stuff about her online I'm just looking at. So just wanted to share the resource.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I would love to do a workbook with anybody. So
Can you repeat the name and the name of the book?
sure, it's Elena, ELENA, Aguilar, AGUILAR. And the book that she was kind of talking about is called Onward, Cultivating Emotional Resilience in Educators. But a lot of it you can combine into communities. And I may still have access to her her opening 1 hour long what is it when someone speaks, opening kind of
Keynote.
discussion. What?
Keynote.
Thank you. Why couldn't I think of that word? I think I still have access to her keynote, and it was so powerful that we did it as a PD, professional development for all the teachers in our building. And we hooked it up through Zoom. And so if it's something people are wanting to spend some time listening, I'm happy to figure out a way to hold an hour or a little over an hour session and see how we can pipe it in through Zoom. I'm sure there's a way and show the keynote, because it probably changed my year. It was that powerful. So I don't know that I'll have access super long. I'll have to double check, but it's definitely something I'm willing to share because I believe in it.
Thank you. I don't want to squander access to Chief Jolly. Chief, I'm wondering if you could give us a quick rundown. I apologize for the abrupt shift here, but I'll pick on you to tie it back into. But what are we seeing in the community this past month in terms of what your officers are responding to? Are we seeing any increases in domestic violence or substance use responding? How are your guys doing with hope?
That's a great question, and that's kind of all over the place. I think as normally would be expected, we're seeing more substance abuse calls, frustrations, suicides. We were out a couple nights ago on a gentleman that had reached that point of despair and took his own life. So we're seeing a lot more family involved incidents as families spend more time together at home. And surely the economic factors that are associated with this shutdown of our economy and our life are very worrisome, because one of the big forces of crime rates obviously is the economy and people's ability to be able to take care of their families. So as law enforcement, we're very concerned as to the longer this is prolonged, the more chance there is of people becoming destitute and desperate and angry and deal with things with substance abuse. And so those things just compound the normal situation that we have in the best of communities, which Monroe is. So it is tough. And you said something interesting, Joe, about how do we keep the hope and the optimism at a time that is new to anybody in our lifetimes here, when there's the potential that this may worsen next year, that the cause and effects or the pandemic itself may continue. And so how do you build that hope going forward, as you know that the challenges might be even greater? So that's difficult. We work on it every day. Even as a leader in this organization, I have my ups and downs and good and bad.
Oops. If you're there, we lost you, Chief. Darn.
Yeah, I had a question for him.
Well, we'll hope he rejoins. In the meantime, certainly anybody else is free to talk. I mean, as we're talking, in my mind, I'm seeing a clear path to like hope workshops that we facilitate. You know, I mean, it's not just about messaging. Lorena said it earlier. We have skills to teach. We build capacity in the community, and this is an area where we can do that. And those will also create opportunities for connection. I love the resources Jim Bloss threw out there. What can we do to help promote those NAMI support groups that all communities have access to? I mean, I think it's time.
Joe, how you mentioned that you personally are really missing connection, the relationship piece. Have you found ways that work for you to attain that?
You know, what I benefit most from when I'm with somebody is the oxytocin release that comes from giving a hug or having a handshake, or even just the energy I get from sharing ideas. So like this is so energizing for me, just to have the ideas and wisdom at the table that we do, and the cohesion. Like, we're going to move somewhere. This is a coalition that acts, and our history shows that. But it's a poor substitute for getting a hug from you, Mary, or sitting in Chris's living room. Right.
Well, and I found that my email numbers have gone up, and that is no replacement for face-to-face, as far as I'm concerned.
And a lot of people are burned out on too much screen time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Last thing they want to do is sit in front of a computer screen. But I think, Joe, what you were just saying about, can we be a resource to families and adults in the community? I know that our clients are youth, families, but I think that would be wonderful as a service. But then that adds burden to individuals like yourself that are already feeling the strain of an altered universe.
I'm good. You know, actually, you just said something that popcorned another thought in my mind, that, yeah, people are getting burned out on screen time. Well, there's an opportunity in that too. Like, what if we marketed like micro workshops? 20 minutes on how to build hope this week. 2 weeks later, 20 minutes on how to foster connection in your organization or your family, right? And I really loved what you said earlier about how do we support our colleagues who are on the front lines providing care, providing access to care. And if I knew I was only going to be on Zoom for 20 minutes and maybe walk away with a good tool or nugget, I might do that.
Yeah. Kernels of care.
Kernels of care. Oh, I love it.
Really, I mean, you know,
healthcare workers from Evergreen and stuff. So
yeah, I think it's an awesome idea. You know, because it's easy to commit that. It's tougher to clear your calendar to do an hour and a half.
Yeah, and then we can leverage, like, seriously, I'm looking around at this room, and like we could have kernels of care, you know, with Jim Bloss, with Michael Hanford, with Mary Myers, right? With each of us. So this wouldn't have to be something I'd do. It's just something I could facilitate with the wisdom in the room. Bill could talk about mentoring relationships, 15 minutes on what it means to be a mentor. Even if it was just your personal story, it's going to inspire somebody. Kernels of care. The alliteration gives me goosebumps.
I love it.
Do we have Chief Jolly back?
As a coalition, we should.
No.
I'm sorry. As a coalition, we should be, and we are to a large degree, but we should stress to be one of the many community support organizations that people can look towards, if it's to help bolstering hope or financial information or whatever it may be. We should be, the Monroe Community Coalition should absolutely be a group of people like this group here and others that the community knows they can go to. So I think, and Joe, like you said, it's not something that would be all on you. but how to know who to provide information that's being requested from the coalition, that's something we'd have to work out. However, it should be on everyone's mind in the community that's having some sort of problems. We owe it to the community.
And I like the idea somebody threw out about, expanding it to, our staff and, teaching staff and, Housing Hope staff that are having difficulties with this whole thing. I like the idea of a two-prong approach.
One of the things that we have to be careful is that there is a there's a hierarchy of need, and we're all employed or retired and have resources. That doesn't mean we don't have needs, and we don't have to lessen our need because it's not as severe as somebody else's. Maybe someone else with much more severe needs is doing much better than we're doing with minimal need in some ways. So that can be an easy way to to try to deal with someone and say, well, that's nothing. You should see so-and-so who just lost their house. Well, that doesn't make me feel any better. It actually makes me feel guilty if we focus on that too much. So we don't want to have a hierarchy of need here. We want to have, identify need and then what can be done about it.
Pastor Michael, you have been silent this whole meeting, and I can't let you get away with that.
Well, I've been taking it all in out of optimism, and we've had a corporate meeting here, and out of the optimism, as the video said, comes agency or actions to produce effects, and plans come out of that. So good things that have come forth. I think touching people in calls, texts, even visits with face masks and social distancing. It was really cool that Joe, you and I got together that one time anyway, and it just was like 10 minutes, I think it only took, but it was really special just to be there. We couldn't hug each other, but that's all right.
Yep.
And I think to reach out to people that are hurting is so important, and touch as many people as we can. I know good things have come out of this whole thing in our neighborhood. We have a neighborhood watch group, and that group has just rallied around each other with new communication and just projects and little things, helping each other, and it's really been amazing. And then of course we've, as a community, we've had to come up with alternative approaches to, we've been forced to come up with alternative approaches to planning and getting together and meeting needs, and whether it's the homeless or the service providers or whatever. And that's been amazing. Some of the things that have come out of that are just, they're going to carry on after this whole thing is over. And there's been some really good things in our family. We've gotten closer together through this whole thing, but I know there are others who are feeling isolated and alienated. And if we can all work to identify those and then reach out, even simply, it's going to be so good. So keep up the great work. I'm praying for all of you who are right on the front lines in so many ways, and may you all have a wonderful Christmas and holiday season, and I'll be thinking of you and praying for you.
And that's you.
Yeah.
Pastor
And
Michael,
you as well,
within the
Michael.
faith community, Pastor
Pardon me?
Michael, within the faith community, are you coming together to talk about needs? How are pastors meeting with youth groups since they can't meet in person?
Well, there's a lot of social distancing meetings with youth. they're getting together in different ways, but that's happening actually. And yeah, I think each congregation has been forced by this whole thing to do amazing things. And like at the Seventh-day Adventist congregation down the street from us here, and that's the facility we usually meet at, but we haven't met there since March. But that congregation is giving out free food boxes with big signs on Chain Lake Road. I mean, it's just amazing. Cascades doing amazing things, and Jason Waltman and the Hope Dinner kind of a thing coming up this weekend, I think it is. And boy, it's just amazing all the things that are happening.
Well, we're at time.
Yeah.
But if you want to hang out, go ahead and hang out. I'll stay here and keep this going. And we still haven't heard from Dwayne or Dennis, and Kathy's raising her hand.
I just have a really quick, just a cute little story. It came out in our bulletin this morning from Maltby. So it was a staff member posted that her children are also in our school. And so the grandma who lives out of state in California was holding a weekly Bible study with all the grandchildren all over the United States. And every week they would come together and grandma would give them a lesson. Well, the challenge last week was to bring a friend. You make me cry. The child brought Mr. Mogg, their teacher. He showed up on the Zoom call and he was just present. Sometimes all you need to do is be present. And the person was saying, you know what, they will never forget that. Their teacher showed up with their grandma to a Bible lesson. So just be there. Cool.
Nice story.
Joe, is it possible to share the slideshow in the video?
Yep, I'm gonna get it all uploaded here within the next half hour.
I had just one kind of final thought of, and this fits people with resources that are still struggling. I thought 2020 would be the year I got everything I wanted. Now I know 2020 is the year I appreciate everything I had.
Yes.
Wow.
Joe, how do we get that information you're uploading?
It's going to be, I'll send out the link. I personally, I felt like this was a great gathering today, and I'm going to send it out and encourage people to just follow up, check on the meeting. But it will be on Monroe Community Coalition.org under About Us. So there's a meetings, minutes, and agendas tab, and all of the meetings that have been on Zoom have been uploaded now. So.
Thanks, Joe. Great job on the meeting.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, and if you have ideas for kernels for care, send them to me, because I have a couple of different visions about how we could do this, like guerrilla style. You know, like I mean, Mary, honestly, I could see like you and I sitting down, having a conversation about your perspective through nursing, what we can do for families on Zoom. Just click record, send it out.
Yeah.
Why not? It doesn't have to be elaborate, just meaningful.
No, that wouldn't take much prep at all.
No.
Just speak from the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I love you guys. This meeting is what gives me energy every month. So thank you.
This was wonderful.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
We'll see ya.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Safe, healthy.
Thanks again for being here, Hannah. Nice to have you back, Jim. I'm going to end the meeting now, everybody.